In previous videos we gutted our filled-in veranda, put down new flooring and framed a difficult angled ceiling. In this video we'll be framing two walls with angled tops and openings for reclaimed doors. Right, I've managed to find a couple of reclaimed doors that match those in the original part of the house, and this one we want to put in here. So we need to frame up a wall that the door will fit into. The door is just over 760 millimeters by 195. So we need to allow a little bit of a gap plus a jamb, which I make out of 18 millimeter timber, and then a little bit of room either side to allow for that to be packed out. So if we allow about 30 millimeters each side, that's 60. That brings us to 820, maybe 825. Now the wall is to go behind that post across there, so the total amount is 1 meter 830. So if we just make it 1 meter each side, half a meter each side, sorry, we'll be right. Now, building a frame in here is going to be a little bit tricky because the frame is going to be a little bit wider than, say, here. So we can't just do it the traditional method where we build it on the floor and stand it up. It ain't going to fit in. So we need to do it in a couple of halves. Probably build this part here first, up into the ceiling, that part second, and away we go. I've cut out some timber here, but to work out this top plate, we can measure it with a tape measure, but we need to cut it at an angle like that so that the two top plates will meet correctly. To find the angle of the sloping part of the roof, we use a miter saw protractor, and this comes to 25 degrees, the sloping part of the roof is, off the flat part. So we halve this for our cut angle of 12.5 degrees. The last piece of the frame to go in is the noggin. Then we nail the frame off using a nail gun. This is by far the quickest way to do this, although you have to be careful not to nail it to the floor like we just did, because that can damage the floor, which now needs to be fixed. Then we can stand the frame up and fiddle about to get it to fit. Although we did strike one little problem here, and that's with that piece of bracing that's sticking out a little too far. So we've had to do a bit of chiseling to notch that out to get it to fit tightly against it. We also want to get the sheeting to fit between the new frame and the corner post of the old frame, and of course this meant a bit more chiseling to get it to fit around that piece of bracing timber. We then use our offcut of fake tongue and groove sheeting to check the spacing top and bottom. We'd like the sheeting to be flush with the tongue and groove boards on the original part of the wall, so that the fake sheeting looks like real tongue and groove boards. We then nail off this half of the frame, and once again use that offcut to make sure the spacing is correct. Alright, the other mistake that I've made is this wall is out of plumb. It's about 10 mil over a 1.2 meter. So it's a 20mm out of plumb, too far that way, and of course I've made this frame the same as it, so it's also out of plumb. So there's not really a lot I can do about that right now, apart from pack a bit more out. So I need to allow an extra bit of gap at the bottom there for the door. So the door at least is hanging plumb, otherwise they swing open on their own, and trying to get them to line up properly isn't that easy. Right, so this next piece of wall we have to focus on getting that plumb. I built that wall and it's plumb. Almost. After doing a whole lot more measuring and some deliberation over the dimensions for that doorway, we finally cut the top and bottom plate. The top plate requiring a 25-degree angle at one end and a 12.5 at the other end, so it will fit on that sloping ceiling. To get the correct length of the stud that goes on the edge of the doorway, we had to pre-measure the top plate and then literally hold it all in place, which was a lot of fiddling about, but I don't know, how else would you do it? Then after checking it on the floor, just to make sure we're right, we can nail everything off. Again, making sure we don't nail it to the floor, which is why I'm lifting it up a bit as I go. Managed to film the direction of this with the camera pointing to the floor. Oh well, we're up now, and that there is dead plumb, which is awesome. Then we get on and fit the lintel between the two halves. This is just a normal piece of framing because there's no real load on it, although we do put another small vertical piece in above it, but that's purely where the sheets will meet, so it makes it easier to fit them together. Right, we got this one done now. Just as complicated as the other one. In fact, more, because the floor's on a little bit of a slope here, and oh, there wasn't much timber to whack into there, but it's done. When building this wall, we realised the floor wasn't level, so in the next video we'll be jacking the floor.